Welcome to A Moment with Vivacious, a freedom ride where we the people gather to build ourselves, our family, our community, and our nation. For the sound of America for Progress has reached critical mass. Understanding that we must put aside our differences to focus on the greater good. This is a place of collaboration to rebuild and restore our nation. Welcome to A Moment with Vivacious. Hello, and welcome back to another week of building ourselves, our lives, our community, our family. We're so glad to be here, and of course, you know I'm still excited. We have with us tonight Tiffany Foley, back by popular demand, because we want to get this parenting thing under control, right? We want to grow our families again. So, can I ask my team, please, can we have Tiffany Foley in the studio? Good evening, good evening. How
Good
are you
evening.
tonight, Tim?
Hi, I'm doing great. How is everyone?
Well,
Thank you for having me back. Thank you. Thank you.
well, you're back by popular demand. People wanted to talk more about parenting. You know, we're bringing things back under control. No, parenting don't come with a book, but tonight we're building a what do we call it? We're a village. Tonight we're building a village, and we're putting out information that's gonna bring things into order. So this is where I would like to start if we can tonight, Tiffany. I would like to start with the types of parenting, because you know some of us didn't even realize. I didn't until you started talking about it. I think people will begin to understand more of the information and can categorize maybe themselves and the information as you talk about types of information.
Yes. As we ended the segment on a few weeks ago, and I believe I ended speaking about different parenting styles. And I think it's important that as we continue this conversation, that we educate parents on the most common types of parenting styles. There's several different parenting styles, but there are four more common parenting styles. So I definitely would like to begin with um, just giving a little definition about those parenting styles, and then also talking about what type of child you're rearing underneath those parenting styles. So I definitely would ask that as I mention these parenting styles, if you have a pen and some paper, maybe write down some notes and try to identify yourself as the parent. If you're a parent, you know, what type of parenting style you may be administering in your home. And so there are the four most common type of parenting styles are um, one, an authoritative parent, an authoritarian parent, a permissive parent, or uninvolved or neglectful parent. Okay, so I'll say those again: authoritative, authoritarian, permissive, or uninvolved or neglectful. Uninvolved and neglectful is the same type of parent, right? So, an authoritative parent is the most common type of parenting that we want to see, that has the most positive outcomes. And so, these type of parents have high standards for accomplishment and maturity. However, they are friendly and they're accommodating, right? And then they establish standards and boundaries through dialogue, through open dialogue with their children. And children underneath an authoritative parent tend to be more happy and content. They have high self-esteem and they function better in society. Social skills are high as well, and they tend to be more active. Okay. I have a few notes. Um, and these type of children, children who are reared underneath an authoritative parent tend to have less anxiety, less suicide attempts as well. Now, an authoritarian parent, these are the type of parents who say, because I said so. All right. They have high parental control and rigid boundaries. They don't consider the child's feelings whatsoever. It's because I said so. This is what I said, and this is how it's gonna be. They don't take into account what took place, why the child feel the way that they feel, just because I said so. And so these type of children who are reared with an authoritarian parent tend to be more unhappy, um, less independent, less active. They have low self-esteem, more behavior problems, poor academics, and poor coping skills. Okay. And then you have the permissive parent. This is the parent who wants to be the house friend. There are absolutely no boundaries whatsoever. And these type of children, excuse me, have difficulty following rules. They have lower self-esteem, and they have more problems with social interactions. And then you have the uninvolved, neglectful parent. Um, these parents are not involved whatsoever. They may be dealing with their own issues that they went through as a child, depression, abuse. And children who are reared with an uninvolved parent typically have increased impulsivity, difficulty with self control, and increased delinquency, behavior, and substance abuse. And so, as we continue to educate parents about the different type of parenting styles, we have to consider what we're doing in the home because it starts in the home. Sometimes it's okay to incorporate more than one type of parenting styles. There may be situations that may require you, say, you're an authoritative parent. You may have to be an authoritarian at some point, depending on the situation. You can be a little friendly with the child, but not always friendly like that child is your friend, like, your girlfriend or your boyfriend, no, there's no boundaries there. And so when we look at our children that are being reared, we have to go back into the home and say what type of parenting style is being administered in the home.
So I'm thinking of my job. I'm sorry. This is gonna help me a lot. I want to say hi Nola, hi Stephanie. I'm so glad y'all joined us. But I want to say that um, a lot of times when, especially if the child is a problem child or quote unquote, because I don't want to be negative about any child, a child is just totally out of control. Or a child is aggressive. I see that same behavior in the parent. So, do you think at that time that
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to be nice? I want to say good, nice things. That the lack of self discipline, which
Mm-hmm.
which one of comes, which how would that fit in parenting? Because I talk to the parents.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's
So
twofold. One, it goes back to the parenting styles, what type of parent, and also it goes back to children mimic what they see, right? So
yeah,
if you're not setting boundaries with your child and you're overly aggressive, you're using curse words in the home, children mimic what they see. And so that's what you see. If you have love and you're showing compassion, say you're in a car, you're driving and somebody cuts you off and you show compassion to that person, then your child is seeing you show compassion to another person. But if that person cuts you off and you're cussing that person out, then that's what your child is seeing, and they're going to eventually do the same thing. So it goes back to children mimic exactly what they see. They learn through interaction, they learn through play. And we are a child's best teacher. A parent is
And
a child's best teacher.
I wanna bring this up too. Thank you, Mr. Duck, for tuning in tonight. I wanna bring this up. This happened to me recently. This a child was very aggressive and abusive to the parent.
Mm-hmm.
She cursed me out as long as somebody was between us. But I come from, where I come from, right? So I didn't play with her. Look, this is going to happen and that's going to happen. The whole time she's with us, she's obedient to what we say, at least when I'm on the floor because I can see her.
Mm-hmm.
But her mom's afraid because she's so aggressive with her at home. What do a parent in that situation, when they run out of things, what am I going to do?
Right. So a lot of times, it's hard to identify exactly what could possibly be going on or what has taken place at that point. But the best scenario is for what the mother is doing, and that's seeking help. She may have ran out of options. The child's behavior may not be because of abuse or neglect. Um, there could be different reasons why this child is acting out, but the best scenario is what the mother is doing, and the mother is seeking help from professionals who could possibly help her. Sometimes you don't always have an on-time answer. Sometimes you don't always have an answer right then and there, a solution to help the family. But the best thing that the mother could do is not be in denial, seek help, and continue help, not just seek help now, step back later, forget about it, ignore it, sweep it under the rug, then things blow up and now it's a bigger situation. It has to be continuous, ongoing help, ongoing therapy, um, whether it's individual therapy for the child and also family therapy to bring in the parent to try to best help that family in that scenario, in that situation.
And let me bring up another scenario. A scenario where that parent, I have a dad that's raising his daughter, and also right now I have a mom, single parents, raising their children, and they're raised with a standard at home. And I believe, and I'm putting in my belief, I believe some of that stuff these children get off the internet and the friends that they get off the internet.
Mm-hmm.
They both are both are very respectful children. Both of these young ladies are very respectful children as far as talking to me as staff. However, the things that they're getting themselves involved with outside of the home is destructive.
Right.
But it's not what's being taught at the home.
Right.
From what I
Peer pressure, video games, cell phones. And I think we talked about this on last week as well. It still goes back to, some of it is back to parenting as well, with boundaries and setting limits on the type of things and that the children have access to in your control. Because there are going to be some things that the child is going to have access to when they step out of your home that you can't control. But when you have those conversations and those honest conversations with your children, then hopefully that child knows how to um, react and respond to peer pressure in a positive way, in a good outcome way. But if you're not having those conversations, the child's gonna go with the flow. They're gonna do what the children in the neighborhood are doing. If you're not having those type of conversations, with the children, to say, if you're presented with the scenario A, how would you respond? What should you do if Tommy or whomever, presents you with this situation? What do you do? If you're not talking to your children about how to respond to peer pressure, and that it's okay to back out of a situation, then the child is going to go with the majority, because you never talked about that with that child. You never even discussed it. You're not even having a dialogue about peer pressure, and how to handle those different type of situations. And so, like, I think we talked about this in the last session, about you're going to have some uncomfortable conversations with your children, age appropriate conversations, but a lot of those conversations will be uncomfortable conversations. I see Nola Red said kids will always have outside influence. However, you have to be the biggest influence in your child's life from early on. Teach them that when those influences, they will be able to stand. And that's true. You know, having those conversations about peer pressure, and you have to give scenarios, real life scenarios. And, children watch the news now, so you can relate something that may have been on the news to a current situation in a child's life, and ask them how would they respond to that. Okay, if you're at school and you go to the bathroom and you see so and so in the bathroom smoking marijuana, and they offer you marijuana, what do you do? What would you do? Oh, they telling you, oh man, you gonna be a punk. You can't hang with us. You ain't down. You ain't like that. So what do you do? Do you just go and smoke the marijuana because you want to fit in, or you tell them, well, call me a punk. If you think I'm a punk, then I'm a punk, but I'm not smoking this marijuana with you. I have better sense than you do at this moment. So having those conversations with your kids and teaching them how to respond and how to be able to back out of some uncomfortable situations that they may be put in, but being okay with themselves and their self-esteem, to know that they don't have to fit in with the status quo to be liked. And
And marijuana
sometimes
was a
they may
thing.
have to stand
Um,
alone.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. What did you say? I'm sorry.
That's okay. I said sometimes they may have to stand alone, as a student. They may not be popular or liked, because they're not going with the majority. And that's okay.
And marijuana
But we
is
have to teach
destroying.
our children that.
Yeah, marijuana is destroying children's minds. When and at
Right.
such young ages, everybody's vaping, and I don't know
Right.
nothing about smoking, but I don't know how they get the marijuana or whatever it is in the vape. But
Right.
um, whatever it is that's not even showing up on drug screen, and I just want to make mention of this, is really leaving children senseless. Adults too,
Mm-hmm.
but they made an adult decision. So
Right.
I just hope that we can get a hold to, because right now schools, they're showing one county here in Georgia has made classes where if the children get caught with vapes, them and their parents have to go to class. But I just want to say, just have that little piece of public information.
Mm-hmm.
Discourage your children. It's not like when you went to school, because a lot of people my age were smoking weed. You know what I'm saying? It was the big thing to do at
Right.
school. But it's not the weed that you had. We
No,
don't know
now
what it is right now.
they're mixing marijuana with other drugs. Fentanyl is definitely at the top of the list, and children are dying.
Right.
Fentanyl is a
Right.
very powerful pain medication, and that has to be monitored by a physician. And people are mixing it into marijuana and other drugs, and they're saying, "Oh, I'm just gonna put a little bit." Well, that little bit could be potent enough to kill you. And so, like you said, the marijuana now is nothing like it was back in the day. It's mixed with all type of synthetic things. The mojo, which you were speaking about, that doesn't show up on a drug test. Um, that synthetic marijuana is dangerous, and if someone is exposed to it, they're lucky if they come out of it without any side effects. A lot of people have lost their mental state. They're not in the same position that they were in the
Exactly.
beginning
Exactly.
because of the
Exactly.
synthetic marijuana and all the added drug. Yes.
Tiffany,
Kathy
hi Kathy.
Baker says elementary school students. Hi, Kathy. Thanks for your comment. Yes, Kathy says elementary school students are in the bathroom at school vaping. Yeah, and
Oh my.
you know, access. I mean, parents also don't be afraid to go in your children's rooms and search. No privacy. If your child is coming home with things that you didn't purchase for them, why are you still letting that child keep those items? Search those rooms, check those book sacks when they come home. I want to know what you're bringing in the house. When you leave out my house and come back in my house, I want to know what you're bringing in a home. And so we have to go back to that as well. Checking the belongings and checking their rooms and seeing, because children are going to hide things in the home. I mean, I remember, if we can be candid, can we be candid on here?
Please do.
Vivacious.
Yes, absolutely.
I, so, we're talking about raising teenagers, right? So, one of my daughters, and I'm not going to say which one, but I remember getting a call once to come and pick her up, saying that she was having an anxiety attack. And so when I got there, I was oblivious to what was going on because I honestly thought she was having an anxiety attack, right? So she went to saying something, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, what is going on? And so then my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, he said, mm-mm, I think she high. I said, what? So sure enough, we drove straight to Children's Hospital, and we get there, and the doctor says that the drug test was negative. The drug test was negative. So apparently it must have was mojo. They were experimenting, smoking marijuana, right? And I remember her dad was there, and I remember I remember asking her, where did you smoke this at? And I thought she was gonna say at my house, but she said at my dad's house. So her dad looked at it because he thought she was gonna say at my house. And I'm like, what? So she was like, no. And he was like, well, where was I? And she said, you were in the room. She was in the bathroom. So the kids are gonna do things right underneath your nose, stuff that you wouldn't even think that they probably would do, right? Because they're gonna try different things. So again, you have to be alert, searching their rooms. When they out with the friends, go check in their room, go check underneath the bed. I had a friend that had somebody had some drugs in their house. So when they were out with the friends, she searched the room and she found some drugs in the room, and it was hidden in a shoebox, a tennis shoebox. Kids are going to get creative with how they hide things, and they're doing it right underneath your nose. And even though you think that they may not be doing those things, it's happening in your house. So don't be afraid to check. Don't be afraid to bring it up. And when you see it, call them out on it. Don't you can't be afraid of your child. Oh, I'm not going to say that I found marijuana, or I found a pipe, or I found pills, or whatever it is that you found in your house. You can't just walk on eggshells and don't say anything, because that's not helping the situation. You have to be proactive, and you have to address it.
Another thing that I'm finding that maybe should come up a little earlier is sex conversation. I had a person that I knew, and I knew her daughter, and her daughter had a boyfriend for 2 years on the internet, and she was 13 years old when she showed a friend some pictures of her naked for the boy. She was sending them for the boy. I hear this the same story I hear so many times. So in my conversation with the child, she said, "Well, he didn't ask me for it. I was telling her this is not somebody who like you. The boy who's gonna like you is not gonna want anybody else to see. He's not gonna want you to be naked like that. Nobody else saw." I said, "Girl, you was on World Wide Web. Anybody could see that. But he's not gonna even want you to do that for him, somebody who really care about you." That's the same thing my mama said. But that boy, like blah blah, telling her, trying to teach her.
Mm-hmm.
So then her thing to me was, which was the most hurting part. She said, "Well, he didn't ask for it. I just gave it to him." At younger age, she just sent him the naked pictures. Of course, it
Mm-hmm.
was the internet. I said, "You don't know if that was an old man.
Right.
It could have been a pedophile." "Oh no, I've been talking to him for years on the phone." So that means if you were 14, you've been talking to 12 years old to this person over the internet with this
Right.
phone. So it's almost like sex trafficking and selling. Especially, I hope mama didn't have Verizon paying that bill, for
Right.
this man to abuse her child. Like, and so I did have a child ask me one time, she wanted to talk about sex, but this was after she had been in a situation.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we, I guess we got to search the phones. How do we bring this telephone thing under control? And the people on the other side of the phone, was there any way to hold that man accountable? I'm saying it's a man, but it could have
Yes.
been a boy accountable.
There are things called parental controls on the phones. You have to set those controls the same way, like if on your TV, on your television, with YouTube channels and all of these different movie channels. You can set parental controls that way a child won't have access to certain things. And we talked about that as well with the cell phones and the amount of information that the children have access to. In that situation, yes, that phone could be turned over to the police department, and the police will track those phone calls and text messages, and they can find out if that's an adult on the other end of that line. So the parent could turn that phone in and report it to the police and say they're suspicious that this could possibly be an adult. But as parents, the parents have to go back to parental controls, because there's so much out there on the phones, all type of new spyware that can track and it's just dangerous, because you really don't know if this a cult. You don't know if it's a gang organization, like you say, sex trafficking. The person could live right next door to you. You don't know. All right. And that's another thing. We have to also be aware of sex predators, registered sex offenders in our neighborhoods. We don't talk about that with our kids either. You get the little registration that come in the mail and you put it to the side. No, you need to show those things to your children and say, hey, we got this in the mail. I want you to look at this picture, and this is why this person was in trouble. And they live right up the street. They need to be alert and they need to be aware. We don't have those conversations with our children about predators in the community, and they're everywhere.
And I would encourage
So
us to
parental control.
find out how to have healthy sex conversations with our children. Because if they're 12 years old, um,
Right.
I don't understand, and of course I'm much older. I do not
They're
understand
watching
how
it
we.
on TV. They're watching television. Just about everything on TV now has sexual acts in it. Truth be told, everything that we see on TV now has sexual acts in it. So whether you watching a R-rated movie or X-rated movie, those movies are rated for a reason. And a child's mental capacity to handle the things that they see is an issue. And so that's why the movies are rated, whether it's a PG movie or R movie. It's rated for a reason because of the level of maturity that it takes to be able to watch those type of things on television. And so children are watching it when parents are asleep. Hey, Stephanie Harton says, I have conversations with my daughter about sex. And again, I think we talked about that last week. When is the right time to have a conversation with your child about sex? Sometimes there is no right time. In the times that we're living in right now, children have access to all of that. They're talking about it at school with their friends on a bus, on the games that they're playing. So you just have to decide when is the right time for you to sit down and talk to your child about sex, but you need to have the conversation about it, about
And one thing
appropriate
I
and
want to say is, it is not necessary for anybody to have a phone to their ear for 24/7. It is
no.
it is just not that important. Some days I just leave my phone home. I don't even take it to work with me. But
And
on the phone,
it's not healthy. But we have gotten so accustomed to the fast-paced lifestyle. Everything is at our fingertips. I mean, everything is in those phones, and people just can't function, especially our young kids. They can't function without the phone. They can't even concentrate in a classroom because they have the cell phone. They're checking it all day. Some schools take the phones from the kids when they get to school, and they get their phones back at the end of the day. And I like that. Now, I do understand parents are worried because of the times that we're living in. Things are happening on the school campuses and stuff. But there were times where you didn't even have access to that stuff at all. And so everything comes with limits. You have to set limits. If you're going to have a cell phone, you could be on the phone X amount of time, take the phone from them, have family time, put the phone away. You have to set limits on these things. If not, then the child is going to think that the world operates around them. There are no limits, there are no rules. And that's just not how the world and our society operates. We have rules in everything that we do. But if you don't have boundaries set and no limits, then you're not teaching a child anything.
even adults, we could turn that phone off at a certain time. But and I was reading a study um, during the week, maybe the weekend, and it was talking about the mental health issues, suicide, anxiety, children more ADHD, more children are being diagnosed since the influctuation of such phones and social media and even the games. How children can't concentrate. It's creating more mental health issues. And I see it. I see it increasing, and and then and I see the severity of mental health conditions changing in adults and children. But we focus on children right now. So can we talk about some mental
Right.
health, stress? Not being able to control your kids, like we were talking about earlier. Can we talk about some of that?
Yes. So, with the cell phones and the anxiety and the stress that comes with that, um, a lot of stuff that children see on social media, that's not real life, but they believe that that's real life and they don't know how to handle those things. So it does bring about a lot of stress, anxiety. They want to be like their friends. They want, they see their friends doing certain things on social media and they may not be able to do those things. So the stress and anxiety that comes with that, because they're trying to be liked. They want to be liked, right? They want to be just like their friends. But Johnny gets to do such and such. Why I can't do such and such? Johnny's on the game all night. He doesn't have a bedtime. Set limits, okay? But behavioral health, definitely. We have to be more open to that in our homes, especially for children who have high anxiety, who have ADHD, um, and being open to them receiving counseling. Um, some families believe in it, some families don't believe in it. But we have a high level of children who are receiving behavioral health counseling due to stress and the inability to handle stress and anxiety, which has a high number of suicidal rates in our young kids. So it's very important that we start to address the mental health issues in our homes.
So what are some of the things um, that we would notice, or changes that we would notice in our children that we should be concerned about?
You may notice decrease in activity, not wanting to attend family functions. They more secluded, wanting to be to themselves, very quiet, very timid. Um, Maybe a decrease in their grades. Their grades start to go down in school. Some kids may have behavioral issues in school because they don't know any other way how to express themselves. So they're getting in fights in school. Maybe disrespect with the teachers, lack of respect for authority figures. So and then high stress, just not being able to handle stressful situations. Um, some kids are good at expressing themselves and some children are not. But those are some of the warning signs that something is not right. When you start seeing these things in your children, you have to pay attention to that. I have Douglas Hodge. Hi, Doug. Doug says we have to think about treating the talk about sex as what it is. It's a body function about reproduction, etc. If we treat the conversation nasty or criminal, then understanding might be different. And Doug, you're right. You have to. We talked about talking about body parts and calling the body parts what they are, and not making up names for it, and just having those honest conversations with our children about what sex is. So I agree with that.
All
But
right.
again,
Thank
we have to be
you.
honest to have those, to be open to mental health and behavioral health counseling with our children. And not just having the child get therapy, like I said, bringing the family into, because, that's different dynamics. So if the child is the only person getting the counseling, but the parent is not involved in the counseling, there may be some things that the child needs the parent involved in, and so we need to bring the parent in at some point. And a good therapist would definitely recommend, okay, at some point we like to bring your parent in to discuss and help you with some of these issues that you have.
Because we're learning tonight that the style of parenting definitely influences the behavior of the child. Now, I believe, personally, I believe that the cell phone and all that other stuff, um,
Mm-hmm.
cell phone and all that other stuff has such an influence, because if you spend an hour or two a day talking to your child, but they spend hours and hours never putting the phone down, um, then that phone um, have more influence on your child than you do. How do we come back, Tiffany? How do we Nola agrees with Doug. How do we come back to family, like family orientated, building
Mm-hmm.
our families again?
Well, we have to be intentional. We have to be intentional about family time, spending time with our children outside of the home, exposing them to different um, cultural activities, and just expounding on the fact that life is more than just a cell phone and a game. That's not the real world. And so, as a parent, we have to do more with our kids, right? Um,
Right.
bring out the board games, go take them outside and, go to the park, bring out the jump rope, get the chalk, do the hopscotch, all of that stuff. Get them outside. Um, do some running activities. We used to do we used to call something called cool can, put the cans in the street and kick them and run and things like that. Or we used to sit on the porch and we used to say, that's my car, taxi. Get them off the game and get them out the house and start doing more activities with the kids. You have to be intentional, plan these things. And a lot of this stuff could be free. Everything doesn't have to cost. There are some things that are going to cost, but there are a lot of things that you can do free. You know, have a picnic in the backyard, get the blanket out, make some sandwiches, get your little snacks and stuff, and just having more family time, but you have to be intentional with doing it. So I say be more intentional.
And have dinner time again. That's when Daddy used to talk a lot with us at dinner time. There's one more thing I wanna talk about, that a lot of parents that I've spoken to are afraid of correcting their children, disciplining their children.
Mm-hmm.
They're afraid. I can't. They'll call the police. But in my day we didn't care. They're gonna take you with them, but I'm gonna correct you right now. But like, can we talk about discipline? Just a little.
Well, you can't be that permissive parent that doesn't set boundaries and be their friend. Unfortunately, you do have situations where law enforcement has to be brought in for everyone's safety. You know, and not setting boundaries, it doesn't teach anybody anything. There's lessons learned in different situations and different things that you go through in life. So just sweeping it under the rug is not going to help the situation is not going to make it any better, because there's going to be another situation that's going to happen. And there's going to be another situation that's going to happen. It's just constantly building and escalating. So you have to address it. Yeah, guilt can set in and you say, oh, I don't want to call the police on my child. But if that child is running behind you with a knife, you going to just stand there and let the child stab you? No, you have to this child needs help. It's obviously that the child needs some help, right? And so, tough skin, but knowing that you're acting in the best interest of the child to help save not just the child, but possibly save the whole family from a situation that could be deadly. And I know that's a hard place for a parent to be in, because that's your child, right? And nobody wants to be in turmoil with their child. But you have to set boundaries early. And when those situations call for outside help, you have to seek that help. And it may be the police. You may have to do that.
And is there a way to safely build a village? When we were coming up, Daddy had my nanny, grandma, your grandma, and he could drop us off to his sister's house, and
Mm-hmm.
Miss Mary looked out for us when Daddy wasn't there. But it's so like the other day they arrested a man from the church for abusing the little children. Is there a safe way? I don't know if you have an answer for that, but is there a safe way to build a village?
I believe there's a safe way to build a village. That's a yes, and then there's a slight no, because to know everyone per se, you don't really know everyone per se, right?
Right,
If you
right.
get what I'm saying. So I believe, yes, you can build a safe village. And then there's that small percentage that there's someone that you can't trust, that you just don't know because you didn't know their hidden secrets. But in building that safe village, you also talk to your child about appropriate and inappropriate touches, appropriate and inappropriate relationships, appropriate and inappropriate interactions. You have those conversations with them so that they would hopefully be comfortable with coming to either talk to you about it or to talk to someone else that they trust enough to say that something inappropriate took place.
And I'm
But
glad you said that,
you can't have a
because
village.
sometimes you're not the person your child come to. So you want to have that somebody that your child can relate to and that can help your child. So sometimes you're not that person.
Right. Right.
And we
And
have one more
if
comment.
you're not that, I can't see it on my end. If you're not that person,
Can you
I
put it
mean,
up,
you want to
Cindy?
be that person. Every parent want to be the person that their child, can come to, and you want that child to feel safe and um, knowing that you have their best interests at heart. But sometimes a child may not feel comfortable with coming to you, and if they have someone that they are close to, a aunt, a brother, sister, who they do feel comfortable with going to, then that's good, because they have that safe place, that safe haven, or someone that they can go to. And nothing's wrong with that. We all have different relationships with different people, different family members. You may be closer to an aunt than you are with your mom. You may be closer to your brother than you are with a sister. And that's good. As long as they feel safe and loved and caring to be able to come and express themselves to that person, I don't see anything wrong with that at all.
Well, we had a good night. We had a very serious conversation. Is there anything you want to add?
Um, I think I definitely wanted to tone in on the mental health piece and about seeking mental health treatment, but not just for the child, for the parent as well, because parenting is hard. And it can be very stressful, especially when you have maybe a rebellious child, and you're doing everything that you can possibly do on your end to help a rebellious child. And so for those parents who without a shadow of a doubt that you're rearing this child in the best loving situation possible with all of the resources that you have. You may even have family near and dear that's assisting you and helping you, but for some reason, you just have this child that's very rebellious. No matter what you do to show them love, to teach them love, to be kind, patient, loving, kind, joyful, everything, this child is just not gonna, they just banging their head. And for you, I say take care of your mental health. It's okay for you to find an outlet, find someone that you can talk to, and also take care of your mental health, because parenting is hard. It 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 comes with some good days, some bad days, some rough days, some knockdown days, get up days, dust yourself off days. But at the end of the day, that's still your child, no matter what, and you love your child. So I just say take care of your mental health. Take care of your mental health. Seek
Can we
help.
ask our technician to put up the last two comments? I'm sorry, I don't have my glasses on tonight.
I see my brother Eric came on here and said, "Great job, ladies."
Hi,
Thank you for
Eric.
joining us, Eric. Um, Douglas says, if we don't have standards for ourselves and children, we might very well create someone we're afraid of. And that's true. That's why I said we have to have boundaries, Doug. Set boundaries. Um, Being a permissive parent and you're afraid to tell your child no, you're setting that child up for failure. Um, you're afraid to um, tell a child that they can't be involved in certain activities, or you buying them everything that they wanted, everything that they like. You even charging all your credit cards up. And these are real scenarios that I've been, had to counsel families on. You done ran up all your bills because you trying to get this child the latest wig. Why are we sending children to school with $300, $400 lace fronts? What? You gone broke to put up this facade for these kids. You setting them up for failure.
Well, I wish they give
You
me that
cannot.
$300.
I mean, I'm being honest. Come on. Children, nowadays, yeah, the parents are paying for all of this stuff. You're paying for $300, $400 wigs and $700 shoes to go to school. Hmm.
Wow, my God.
We have to get back to analyzing ourselves. And I think I said it on the last call. We have to take a look in the mirror, because those are our children that we're sending out into society, and we want them to be productive. And they're not going to be productive in the manner that some of them are being sent out into the community with the parenting styles that some of these kids are being raised under. kudos to those that are that are raising their kids to be productive citizens. Because at the end of the day, you can't control who your child becomes once they become an adult, but you
Right.
can raise a productive citizen. And that's what we want. We want productive working class citizens. Every child may not go to college, and every child ain't out there robbing nobody either. We want to raise productive working class citizens.
Technician, could you put our last comment up, please? Tiffany, can you see it?
Oh, that's my mom. Hey, Ma.
Hey,
Hattie
girl.
Matthew, that's my mom. Hi. What a surprise. Hi, ladies. I enjoyed listening to part 1 and 2 as well. These were very important. Thank you. And see, I want to say, I think my mom was um, I probably would have said my mom was an authoritarian parent. I would say that. But now, when I was younger, I probably would have said my mama said it's gonna be my way or no way. But now, as an adult, I can honestly say my mom was authoritative parent. She has standards, and she did listen to us, but we did have consequences for our actions, and you weren't getting away with that. I remember one time we were riding our bikes, and I don't know if my mom remember this. We were not supposed to leave the neighborhood, and we rode those bikes all the way from Claiborne Avenue to Florida Avenue. And somebody called my mom and told her that they saw us on them bikes. Guess what she did, baby? She threw those bikes away. She threw those bikes away,
Oh
and
wow!
we
Oh
never got
wow!
another. And she never bought us another bike. Do you hear me? Her rule was you could ride those bikes in so many blocks or whatever. But if you went anywhere past that, and I mean, we were way out the way. If anybody know where Claiborne is in between Clued and she said, "Oh, I remember." If anybody know in between Clued and Louisa, we rode from off of Claiborne Avenue all the way down to Florida Avenue, and there was this tunnel. Now, we were young kids, and that's why I say kids are gonna do things. Don't think that your child is not gonna. Don't be that parent that's saying, "Oh, my child not gonna do that." That child gonna be the one that's gonna hurt your feelings. Okay, we were in that tunnel. Anything could have happened to us in that tunnel, but we were children, and you're not thinking about that type of stuff, and our kids are not thinking about that, right? Our kids are just
Right.
doing whatever. But baby, when she found out we were riding that bike, she threw them away. And I haven't bought a bike since then. I don't think I
You didn't
rode
buy
a
your
bike
kids a
since then.
bike.
Huh?
You didn't buy your kids a bike.
No, I bought my children bikes. I say I don't think I
Okay.
ever rode a bike. I don't think I've purchased a
Okay,
bike
you
since
ever
then.
rode a
I
bike?
want to get one. I'm gonna get me a bike, but I don't think I've ridden one since because my mom did not buy me another bike. That was it. She didn't buy us another bike because that was just our
Anything
rules.
could
We
have
broke
happened
it,
to her,
and that was
baby.
it. And that's where we need to go when I said about having rules and sticking with it. So if you tell your child that they're punished for 2 days or a week, stick to what you said you were going to do. And that child is going to see that they didn't break you. Even if you have that rebellious child, you're punished for a week. If that child punished again in 2 weeks, you're punished for 2 weeks. Punish them. Stick with it. Don't break your punishment. Okay. Doug say last thought, our community spends about 1.5 trillion buying the things mentioned. Then talk about what we don't have because of the other community. And you're absolutely right, Doug. The money that parents spend on clothes and shoes and hair and nails and this and that, and then an emergency come up and they don't have the money, it goes back to priorities. It goes back to priorities as well. And then we can't spoil these kids with all of this stuff, and you're buying it because everybody else has it. Who cares what everybody else have? As long as you have some nice clothes on, you're clean, you're fed, you know, it doesn't have to be Gucci and Louis Vuitton, Prada, and all this other stuff that the children are wearing going to school. And then the parents are still struggling on the back end. You know, some parents don't even have life insurance to bury their children because they're buying all this stuff. And we just being honest. Society has gotten away from reality. And I'm going to end with that.
Technician, we have another comment. Can you see it, Tim? I'm wearing my
Eric
glasses.
says parents set the foundation for their kids. You can't control what the child builds on the foundations you help them set up in life, but at least you set them up with a solid foundation to build on. Right, Eric, and that's what I said earlier when I said, you know, we want to raise productive working class citizens, right? So if I've reared you in the right way, I know that I've done everything that I could as a parent. I can't control what you do as when you become an adult, but I did, and each parent that raised their children, you know, the right way with morals and standards and values, then the parent has done their job. Morals, standards, and values is what we need to be raising our kids under. And that's going to come with punishments, rewards, because you want to reward them when they're doing great. And it's going to come with some hardcore conversations, kickbacks, setbacks. But you have to be diligent, you have to be persistent, and you have to be, you want to be, you want to continue, you want to be constantly showing love and compassion with your child.
Okay, I just remembered this thing, and I want to go like almost back to the front. Watching you raise your kids, you know, I was there. Watching you raise your kids, you were very organized. You had the seasons organized. You had the semesters of school organized. You knew what you had to do for each season. You knew what you had to do for each semester in school, and you had it all organized for big holidays that came in between. You and I always tell Chris, I always tell Nola, I say, one thing Tiffany's children, and this is why I wanted her to come talk about children, they could never see that she wasn't there. You know, like you were that mother to me. So that's a good thing. So we could let out on a good thing. Except I want to say congratulations to all the children and their parents that worked hard, that's graduating, that's going to college. It's just bringing tears to my eyes all day. And we're not saying bad things. We're just, this conversation for the children that's listening is to help y'all stay strong. But can we talk about organized parenting? I don't know if it's such a thing or if you just did that or if it's how your mama did it, that's why you did it.
So I think with that, that came with trial and error and learning through some mistakes. You know, like I said, there was one semester where I had to, I got 7 Fs because I enrolled in school. I didn't take the time to ask anybody what I needed to do to drop those classes. You know, I had to stop going to school because I was working. My job wouldn't work with me with my school schedule. So I enrolled in school, dropped out, got the 7 Fs. So when I re-enrolled, I was like, you know what? I'm not doing that again. So I was like, I'm going straight to school. If I have to work in the afternoons or in the morning and go to school at night, whatever I needed to do, I strategized it. I was like, I'm gonna work during the day, I'm gonna go to school at night. And then I did my calendar on the weekends, right? So I knew what days I was gonna study. I knew when I was gonna have some time with my daughter on a weekend and what we were gonna do. And then I had to go back to when you say like organizing certain things. And that's why I say we don't have to buy the most expensive things for our kids. I shopped at Walmart when my children were younger, and they had the best and the cutest little clothes on, honey. All right. But I know times have changed and everybody want their kids to have on Louis and Pooey and all that, right? But anyway,
Thank
I
God.
shopped that when I did get some money, I went to Lords and Taylor's. I remember Lords and Taylor's. I would buy every now and then I
Me
buy
too.
some nice little dresses. But I didn't have the money to put my kids in expensive things. Now, like I said, the difference in the age between my oldest daughter and my youngest daughter, by the time I graduated from college, then yeah, I was making more money. So my youngest daughter, the oldest one was out the house at some point. So the youngest daughter did get to, get a little bit more benefits of certain things that may have been more name brandish, right? As opposed to my youngest daughter. But I bought I made sure that they were well taken care of. I wanted their hair combed a certain way. They were neat. I would buy the cutest little bows and put that on them and stuff like that. So it wasn't about having expensive clothes on them. It's just that I made sure that they were well kept. And so
But they were so organized. It was like it kept you in a beat, almost a rhythm in raising your kid.
I had to have a schedule and I had to have a plan. And so I worked my schedule and I worked my plan. I knew I worked from 7 to 3. I was in school from 5:50 to 10 at night. I only had maybe an hour window to get something to eat or to study or to do homework. I did that. And then I studied at night. I took a nap. I get up, set the clock, get up in the middle of the wee hours of the morning to study before I go to work. So I had a calendar and I had to have a plan and I had to work my plan. So I say to those parents who are juggling different things, work your plan. I still do this to this day. I'm right here at my desk and I have planners. I have all kind of planners. I just write, I write stuff down. Get my calendar and I put it down. And now with the phone, because that is our best friend is at our fingertips, I do put stuff in my calendar on my phone because I'm getting older. My brain don't think like it used to. So I have to write everything down. So I say, find you some quiet time, get you a planner, get you a calendar, write it down, whether it's, write everything, work hours, if you go to church, if you're in Bible study, your children's activities, your me time, most importantly, write your me time on your calendar. Start off with that first and build everything else around that. So you have to have a plan and work your plan. Chris said no, Lorette said not Louis and Pooey. Louis, whatever y'all want, whatever. I didn't have that kind of money to put, and I don't think that children need that. They don't need
And
that
you
because
know
now,
what?
children they
Even
robbing
when
them for
I
that
could
stuff.
afford
So
it,
why would you put your child
I
in that
did not.
situation?
Even if I could afford it, I would not put that on my child. She was not gonna grow up materialistic. You know,
And neither one of my kids
loving
are
parent.
materialistic. They're not materialistic. Then they could care less. I've bought them even now as an adult. I've bought them name brand stuff and it's still sitting on the shelf. I wear it before them. They're not materialistic adults. They've never been. I didn't raise them to be materialistic at all. I raised them to be respectful young ladies, with rules and standards. Now, that's just how I raised them. They weren't
And it was
materialistic. They could
beautiful.
care less if I buy them something with a name brand on it. Half the stuff I buy them now with name brand, they don't even know. They're looking at it like, what's this? They're just not into that stuff. They never were.
And that's a good thing.
But
That-
right. I
it,
think,
it was so.
we have a lot of loving parents, and even for those parents who, because I think last time we said we wanted to mention about the parents that may have went off and how they, trying to come back to recover, right? The parent that may have
Yes.
messed up, may have been on drugs or whatever for whatever reason, and they're trying to figure out how to recover. You want to first, the first thing is just admitting to yourself and apologizing to yourself, and you may have to apologize to your child for whatever was going on, and just building that relationship, but being honest about building that type of relationship with your child again, and getting involved with the child with help. So if you're a parent that have, you messed up your relationship with your children, go to them and mend it. Openly admit it and mend it if they're willing to accept that, you know. So, again, parenting is not hard. It doesn't come with a book. But with this platform and other platforms like this, the world is open to so much because we all can learn and help one another. We can help the next parent be a better parent.
And I want to say thank you for joining us. Thank you, Tiff, for bringing
Thank
your
you.
Masters of Social Work and all of your work in the community to bring it to this platform so that people can look at it and grow. That's the intention, to grow our community, to grow our nation. And I just want to say thank you again, and thanks for everybody who tuned in, those that commented and didn't, and see you next week. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.